Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the 28th episode of the Better Leader podcast. Excited for the content today. Stick around to the end. I'm going to tell you about a trip that changed my leadership and impacted my wife and I in a major way. Well, I love this time of year, and one of the reasons I love this time of year is not just because it's spring, right? But with spring comes the NCAA tournament, March Madness going on, and I love this not just for the entertainment's sake, and I enjoy taking in the games, but I love to see some of the stories that emerge from the tournament. And so one of the stories that kind of highlighted for me during the tournament this year was Iowa's head basketball coach, men's basketball coach, Ben McCollum. Now, Ben McCollum started his career journey in coaching at Northwest Missouri State University, and he spent several different seasons there. He won 4 NCAA Division II national titles. His record while he was coaching there was an astonishing 395 and 91. That's an 813 winning percentage that he had there. And I just look at that and I'm like, okay, that's incredible. Something was happening at Northwest Missouri State. There was some sort of culture that was going on there that was winning. He then went to Drake University and he led Drake to a 31-4 record last year. They won the Missouri Valley Conference regular season and tournament. Pretty impressive. Now he goes to Iowa, and this year in the tournament as a 9 seed, Iowa finished with a 24-13 record, but he brought them to the program's first Elite 8 NCAA tournament appearance since 1987, which is really cool. However, when one of his players interviewed after the game, they were asking him about the accomplishments and about Coach McCollum, and he said, hey, not only is he a great coach, I love him as what he's done for me in basketball, but he's helped me to become a better man as well. And I look at that and I see the track record of excellence, right? Whether it's Northwest Missouri State, Drake, Iowa, something is going on. And there's times, especially whenever I coached or whenever you're leading in whatever capacity you are, you wonder, does leadership actually matter? And I look at this career arc, I look at the trajectory of Ben McCollum's career, and I say he's won everywhere he's been. There's been excellence everywhere he's went to. But I also see that he's impacting people on a personal level as well. And this highlights to me and reminds me again how much leadership matters and the importance of leadership. And then you, in fact, as a leader, you can and will make a difference, and that excellence leaves a trail. We look at the track record of Ben McCollum and we say, okay, leadership does actually matter. And we saw this kind of come to the surface with Iowa men's basketball this year. And I rely on those stories because it reminds me, once again, okay, what I'm doing, it actually does make a difference. Leadership impacts people, and it not only allows you to be effective, but it just this trickle effect happens where you're going to impact other people as well. One of the areas I've seen this, and this is kind of the second thing I want to talk about today, is the power and really the importance of being in the know as a leader. So kind of likewise, I'm always on the hunt. I'm always looking out for leadership stories. And it's been really cool to see at my daughter's elementary school. She has a new principal this year. And this principal, her reputation within the school district has preceded her. I used to be in education. So when I found out that my daughter's school was getting a new principal, I'm texting some of my friends, hey, what do you know about this principal? What do you know about her as a leader? And everybody was like, man, we love her. We love getting to work for her. I asked one of my good friends from college, and he's like, she was just incredible to work with, and one of the reasons why I stayed as long as at the school that I stayed at. And so I've just been watching, and I see the positivity in the school. I see the organization of the school. I see really just kind of the procedures and things that take place, all the things you recognize as a parent. And because of my time in education, the 7 years I spent in education, I'm looking from the outside and I'm saying, man, things are going well. This is a well-led, well-run school, and you can see that the climate is very positive at the elementary school. My daughter was sick the day after spring break and came back. And it was the next day we went to the car line and dropped her off. And her principal says, Nova, we missed you so much. We missed you so much. I'm so glad you're back. Are you feeling better? All of this happening in a quick moment in the car line. And, my daughter's just like, yeah, I'm excited to be back. But I took note of that. There's a lot of kids that go to this school. My daughter is just one of these kids that go to school there. And I realized, like, wow, she noticed that my daughter was gone. Now, I'm sure there's a system or a structure in place where she's getting a report of who's in, who's out. But that to me is being in the know. And I took that moment and I was like, that's good leadership right there. That is strong leadership, to be in the know of what's happening in your organization. And you know what it did for me as a parent? I realized and recognized my daughter is seen. At this school where there's hundreds of kids, that individuals are seen and known within this small community. And so she, as a leader, her principal, took a moment, and because she was in the know, she impacted parents, she impacted the student, and overall she impacts the climate of the school at large. And I thought, wow, that's the importance of being in the know. So the question I have for you is, are you in the know in your organization? Do you know what's going on with your employees? Do you know what's going on with their families? Are you aware of what's happening within your organization? And one of the greatest tools you have is being in the know, knowing the relationships, knowing the dynamics. You know, I look at the role that I have in ministry vocationally as a pastor. One of the greatest things I can do is to be in the know, knowing what's going on with people, because it's hard to lead people well if you aren't in the know. And I think that's a very practical challenge that as a leader, you got to dive in, you got to be in the trenches, and you got to be in the know of what's happening for the people that you are leading. So this one little moment of recognizing that my daughter wasn't at school the day before was a leadership kind of nugget for me to remember the importance of keeping up with people, knowing what's going on, and being in the know. I want to encourage you to do that within your own setting as well. Now, I told you that my wife and I went on a trip that really impacted us. A few months ago, we had the opportunity to go out to the University of Utah and work with a group called Student Mobilization. I was speaking at an event out there. And when we were there, it was one of those things where I was going on this trip in my mind to be an encouragement to the team that was out there. It was some connections we had from Springfield, Missouri, and the leadership there of Jenna and Tyler Miller, and Tyler being one of my good friends and someone that I just look up to as a leader and someone that I have a great deal of respect for the work that he does. And as we went on this trip, I thought, wow, they just moved, right? They're in a brand new space. I get to go out there. My wife and I get to go, and we get to be an encouragement to them. However, what I took away from that trip was like, yeah, seeing all of the things on campus, the work that you're doing, all of that was really cool. But what it really was a moment for me was to reset my leadership as a husband, as a father, and at home, and also for my wife as well. We got to just observe Jenna and Tyler as we stayed in their home. We got to see their leadership of their family. They have young kids, and they've since added another child to their family. But as we were there, we were just observing, and Tyler and Jenna just kept talking to their children of like, hey, this is what the plan is going to be today. We're on a team together. And they would challenge their son, like, are you being a good teammate? How can you be a good teammate today? I saw such intentional investment in the midst of a busy schedule, right? Tyler and Jenna are leading in a variety of capacities. They had such a team culture for their family. And this was something for me that I'm like, wow, this isn't like a brand new concept to me. But I was like, why, Emma, why are we not implementing in this in our own family? Just seeing the way that they were on mission together, that they were a team unified in mission and purpose. And it really changed and impacted the way that I've led at home, the way that my wife has led at home. I'm like, we got to create a team culture. You know, when my wife and I first got married, when Emma and I first got married, one of the things we've always been committed to is that we are a team. Together, we've known that at the end of the day, regardless of what is going on in our marriage, is that we are on the same team. That's helped us through some seasons where maybe we weren't seeing eye to eye, knowing at the end of the day, we're committed to one another. And this was kind of seeing Jenna and Tyler operate as parents really challenged us to be like, we need to take that team culture to our own family as well. You know, even this morning as I was getting ready, it's always a process to get out the door, to get your kids to school. And I took a step back and I realized like, okay, my tone isn't great. Maybe Emma's isn't either. And we're not necessarily on the same page. Our kids are kind of struggling to want to get ready, get out the door. And we just had this moment where we kind of huddled up, right? We brought the team together. And I said, hey, we need to all be teammates today. And my wife just had this great moment of leadership where she goes, hey, what's one thing each of us can work on today? And we go around the circle, and my daughter daughter Nova's like, I can work on my attitude. My son Cash was like, I can work on the way that I'm speaking. My son August is like, I'm not going to throw fits today. And so we go through and we have this conversation, and then we broke it down as a team. And my kids were kind of like, why do we do this? And I was like, hey, we're going to do team on 3. And my son led us in this breakdown. And I think it was just one of those deals where I'm like, wow. On this trip, I did not expect to be encouraged and pushed as a leader in this area, but I recognized and realized and felt convicted that if I'm not leading well at home, if I'm not creating a good team culture at my own home, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that at work or in other areas that I lead. So this trip was so impactful for us and reminded me again of the power of team. It feels kind of obvious to say. I've done a podcast episode called The Power of Team. But it's like, man, I need to implement this in my family. And if I'm doing it well in my family, I can do it well where I work in addition to that. And so all of this was just these kind of things working together was just an encouragement and a reminder to me that I've got to continue to become a better leader, because leadership really matters and it's going to impact the people that you are around. Well, I want to thank you for listening to the Better Leader podcast today. We'll catch y'all next time.